Hello, intuitive souls. This is Rachel Sahwany. I am a spiritual medium and intuitive coach, and welcome to my channel, Intuitive Soul Rising, where I touch on many different spiritual topics related to the awakening process, the ascension process, what it all means, and how we can align with our higher selves and highest purpose, and how we can learn to connect with our guides in the higher dimensional realms, and how we can channel messages for soul growth and ascension. So today I wanted to come on here because it's been a while since I've produced any videos or channeled any messages. I took some time off because things happened in my personal life that really changed my direction and my focus for a while. My mom passed away about a month ago, and prior to that, I lost a friend who we weren't super close, but we knew each other for over 10 years, and I ended up adopting her horse after she passed, because her horse were basically like her children. She lived alone and was never married, never had kids, and didn't have a lot of family close. So I took on taking care of her horse, and just a lot of themes relevant to death and rebirth and transformation have been coming my way as relevant themes to what's happening to all of us, I believe, on an individual level, and then all of us on a collective level. So the last message I channeled and shared on my channel was from Kali Ma, and that was a message, an energetic update for the month of September, and we are now into the middle of November. So that message really explained a lot of what I started to experience and see with people around me who were struggling with a lot of letting go of their identities and just learning how to go with the flow, or even take their power back over fear and override that program of fear and learn to step into their power and their sovereignty and their ability to rewrite their own story, or the story of their lives, or what they have come to identify as their story. I've seen a lot of people get to that breaking point where they're just not able to tap into that power. And so it's been a real wake-up call for me in many ways, as I think that death really is for everybody who experiences the loss of a loved one, or even somebody that you knew at one point in time and maybe lost touch with. But losing a person causes us all to really reflect on not only on that person's life and our memories of that person and our experiences of that person and our relationship with that person, but on our own life and the meaning and purpose of our own life, and why we are here, and what is important to us, and how we want our life to be, and whether we are truly living authentically and in alignment with our divine purpose. And I think that everybody's life has meaning, even those who may have suffered, some by their own cause or their own lack or inability to see how their choices or the choices that they were making was contributing to their own suffering. Death is a very touchy subject for us to talk about, but death is, or the death rebirth cycle isn't just death as in, someone physically dying. It relates to cycles that we're going through all the time in our personal lives. I mean, the layers of our personality that are shedding through each human experience. The saying that we are spiritual beings having a human existence has never been so relevant and important to understand, because if we don't and aren't able to tap into that higher aspect of ourselves, especially in the moments of fear and loss, we will identify or over-identify with the fear, as in there's no escape. It's our destiny. We have no choice but to suffer. A lot of people will become victims to their own suffering and get lost in that victim mentality to the point where they don't know how to get themselves out. So what I'm trying to say is just that it's really important for us to hold a higher perspective of this life, to know that all of our experiences are just lessons to help us tune into more what we do want, how we do want to live. And may the suffering of another person, may the loss of another person's life not be wasted in meaning, because some people choose a life path that is very difficult, and whether they turn their lives around or not doesn't matter, in the sense that there is still purpose to their life. There is still meaning to their life, and we can still learn through their experience what is important to us, how we want to live, what choices we can make that can either empower us or hurt us. And so that's one theme and lesson that's been really apparent and just continuously coming up for me. The other theme is related to being a spiritual person and being a medium, or being someone who taps into the higher dimensional realms and is able to, bring forward messages of love and light and share these messages with others. I'm very grateful for the ability to do this. I am choosing to do this, and I know many of you that are in my private Facebook group, you guys are doing this too. And not all of you have YouTube channels or deciding to go so public with what you're doing, but you are living it. You are living your truth, and you guys are all so valued and needed. We are all needed, but I think some of us just feel the call to share maybe more publicly or in a different way than others. And so anyways, my point is that, so my point in bringing that up is that I've noticed through this process that being a spiritual medium has definitely helped buffer the loss of my mom, in the sense that I'm able to see that, or I understand that death is a transition, that there's nothing to fear, that it's not a loss of life or of the soul itself, but just a transition or transformation, a loss of this physicalness, but a movement into another dimension, another realm where we are still able to communicate on an energetic level, although that person is not in our physical lives anymore. And having that knowing does, make it a little bit easier, but it doesn't take away the feeling of grief or loss or all of the emotions that come up when you experience that, because there is sadness around losing someone and knowing that they're, just not going to be there in that way anymore. So just having that human experience is really, really important to honor both sides of that experience. And I don't know how other mediums feel, but as a medium, since I've become a medium, I guess you could say, or since I've recognized my ability to communicate with higher dimensional beings, I've noticed that there are definitely times where I just don't feel like communicating with anyone. I just want to, feel what I'm feeling, and not necessarily ask for help or need to channel a message from Jesus. If I'm really struggling, I'll call on them, for some support, energetic support, to hold space for me. But intuitively, there are times where I just want to feel that feeling. I just want to be mad, or I just want to be sad, or I just want to be human, and not necessarily always try to rise above or transcend or bypass the emotion, because I feel like, again, intuitively, we are here to have the experience. I feel like that's where the metamorphosis actually occurs. That's where the release in the physical takes place. That's where the transmutation happens. Yes, there are ways to transmute our feelings by calling on our guides, by handing off things to our guides, or through meditation or things like that. But there are lots of ways to transmute energy, and those are just a few of the more peaceful ways to do it. But there are so many ways to do it. And I think just honoring the way that feels right to you in the moment is really the most important thing. So those are the two main themes I wanted to talk about with you, that really, I think on a personal level, have come through for me and have helped me to be able to talk about and understand from that neutral perspective, what's going on, so that I can kind of get through this time a little bit easier, I guess you could say, but it's not necessarily easy in the moment when you're experiencing, some of these more difficult emotions or uncomfortable emotions, I would call it. But just having the freedom to do that is very liberating and authentic to who you are. So always that's really the key, is being authentic and going with the flow and allowing yourself to experience what it is you want and feel you need to experience in that moment to feel free, to feel the sense of liberation. With that, I'd like to, I have a few guides who have sort of been around me a lot lately and who have stepped forward in different times. So I'm just going to kind of tune in, but before I came on, I got a strong feeling that Archangel Azrael would like to step forward today, and he is known as the Angel of Death, but most importantly, the Angel of Transformation, since death is really a transformation, a process of moving into a different state of being and awareness. So I'm going to ask him to step forward now. And I'm going to see what it is he wants to share. He's saying peace. He's saying the peace within and the comfort that comes with knowing your loved ones are safe, are okay, are in a better place, is very important to the grieving process and to the understanding that life has no end, only beginnings, only cycles that appear to end, that have markers. He's showing a circle with markers. He's saying set markers on a timeline if we're talking in linear terms. But again, from the angelic realm, from that higher realms, time does not exist. Everything happens in the moment of now. But not to get sidetracked with that thought. Going back to the markers, he's saying in everyone's life there are set points, set choice points that a soul chooses or writes into their contract, into their storyline, their earth storyline, where choices are made on a soul level to continue in a certain direction. He's showing to continue in a forward or positive direction towards, like, if we're thinking in terms of polarization, there's a positive and a negative aspect. He's saying where they can either choose to move forward in a positive direction or to continue on the path that has been created, or on the path they are already going on. So these choice points are significant opportunities for souls to choose ascension, or he's saying stabilization, or he's saying, correcting me and saying polarization towards the negative aspects of themselves, where they identify more with the shadow aspect of themselves than the light, the lighter aspects. And so from a higher perspective, the soul is making a conscious choice as to what timeline will play out, or how this timeline will play out from that moment forward, continuing on to the next choice point, and so on and so on. And he's saying there comes a time in a person's life where they run out of choices, or these moments where they have to choose their final exit or destination point. And it's based on all of the choices that were made before, and how these choices are playing out, and whether or not this soul has given up on a energetic level, whether this soul has enough energy or like connection to source energy running through their physical body to overcome or transcend these previous choices. And then it also goes back to what their purpose was, what their mission was in this life, and how their mission connects, how their purpose connects to those who they are in relationship with or connected to in this lifetime, and those people's choices, and the choices that those people have made, and the contracts that they have made, the experiences that they have chosen to have. And there comes a point where the soul makes a choice based on what is for the highest good of all involved. And sometimes that means leaving this earthly realm, or choosing to leave at a time that is divinely right, or in divine accordance with the contract that they have made with other souls, to serve as a catalyst for other people's growth and ascension. At that point, it's almost like the feeling is like a willing sacrifice of their own earthly life, a willingness to hand that over, to honor the other souls' journeys and how they can help those souls from a higher position, meaning being on the other side or in the higher realms, how they can, how their impact can be experienced in a way that's for the highest good of all, and the collective as well. So not just the people that are close to them, but the energy of the collective. And so he's drawing it back to our current time and the uniqueness of the time period that we are living in. He's saying that souls are being given many exit points at this time, many choices to leave or to stay. But staying is going to require a willingness to align with the higher frequencies or the higher laws of love that are winning or trumping over or going to trump over or in the process of trumping over the fear that has been he's showing, kind of giving me a sense of what this means. The fear that has really been in power or been dominating is the word. Dominating the storyline for the last, thousands of years, that of the humanity of the collective. The fear has been the dominating form of control and power over the human mind and state of being. Whereas love is becoming the dominant force and the dominant power. Although love has always been the higher force and the higher intelligence, we've been in a cycle where fear has been allowed, to reign, to rule, has been given authority to rule, whereas we are now moving into the cycle where love will become king again. And the love in people's hearts will expand and grow. The love he's showing for one another, the love that we have for one another in nature and Mother Earth will begin to expand, is expanding and growing to a degree that will rule over fear. Will be able to be seen as rising above fear. So he's showing an image of there being light and dark, and the light is on the top and the dark is being pushed to the bottom, and there's dark, but it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So I'm curious if he has anything else to share. So he's saying, yes, in these times of fear, there is much darkness rising to the surface. Or in these times of light, there is much darkness rising to the surface because the light is shining on all of the darkness now. And it's happening on an individual level. It's first, he's saying, needs to happen on an individual level, on a soul level. And then it kind of spreads throughout the collective. It reverberates each individual that goes through this dark night of the soul process where they are experiencing the worst sides of their shadow side, or these sides are coming up for them to see where they cannot hide from them anymore. He's saying this process is always going on throughout human existence. People cannot run from their shadows for too long. They cannot escape their own darkness. If they choose to align or identify with their darkness, they cannot escape the darkness. If that is all they can see, he's saying. But the uniqueness of this time is that, again, the light is clearing the way is clearing a path for the darkness to subside and to also be seen from a grander scale, from a broader lens. So as he's saying, it's bringing clarity, it's bringing understanding through confusion, through chaos. There is a transformation taking place within and without. So I felt him stepping back a little bit. I just want to ask him one last question about the death rebirth cycle and just that process and what is important for us to know moving forward, that will help us through that a little bit easier. He's saying yes. Ah, yes. The death rebirth cycle. This is an ongoing cycle, a never-ending cycle of renewal and rebirth. It's continuous in nature and subjective to an individual's awareness or ability to perceive these moments in time where one is dying and becoming anew. And he's talking about the shedding of layers, as I was discussing earlier, referencing that as a positive analogy for the experience and what it is like. He's showing it as like a lightening of the load of the heavy burdens that we carry through all of our human attachments or egoic attachments. He's saying that are all very much illusions, deceptions created by our mind, believing that this reality is all that there is and all that there ever will be. And that is the most, he's saying, that is the greatest deception of all time. That this reality is all there is, that this physicality, this medium that we call our body, these senses that we perceive the physical realm with, that these are all the senses, that this is the only reality. And he's basically saying, how can this be true when even your scientists agree that there are realities that exist beyond what can be seen by the human eye? And he's showing a microscope in our ability to look with the microscope and to see things that exist in front of us. For example, dust mites or germs or bacteria or living organisms that exist on the surface of things that cannot be seen with the naked eye. He's saying, how silly is it to believe that these exist and yet that the higher dimensional realms do not exist, that the soul that departs this physical body ceases to exist. It is simply not true. He's saying, so once you can understand that all states of being, that what we call or consider to be the death rebirth cycle is simply just going through states of change and transition and transformation. And now he's showing the butterfly. The metamorphosis of the butterfly is the prime example in nature for how one can go through a state of darkness to a state of being free and light. That one must go through the stage of the cocoon to liberate itself, to detach itself from this lower dimensional framework or understanding of being. And he's showing the caterpillar, how the caterpillar is crawling so close to the ground, so vulnerable to be stepped on, and yet can turn into this being that is so free and so beautiful. And he's saying that is the symbol of death, really, and transformation is the butterfly. Look to the butterfly for meaning, to see what nature has given us, to understand this process of death and how it works. The butterfly is really the most beautiful and transparent example, he's saying, of what that process is like for the human soul to experience, to move through that state of unknowing but sometimes fear when one crosses over and transitions. But the joy that spirit or soul experiences when realizing that it was all a game, that it was all in the mind. And when one releases from the attachments of the mind, they see more clearly from the heart what the heart was trying to say all along, what the true meaning of life really was. And they can see more clearly through their heart's eyes, through their heart's lens, when on the other side, that their life did have meaning, that their life did have purpose, and what the choices in their life meant for them, and what the lessons in their life were that for them to learn or accept, is a process that happens mostly on the other side for most souls who transition in a state not as aware of what death really is. And he is referring also to souls that do get stuck in a limited perspective because they're not able to see. They have blinders on when they cross. They are too attached to the material world, to the physical world, and do not have the higher understanding, and they're stuck at too low of a vibration to fully cross over. He's showing the angels hold space for them to ascend or transcend when they are ready to take flight. You know, they appear to be lost by some. We call them lost souls. Those who are like ghosts or who stay stuck in this realm, although they have crossed over. Some of us can pick up on these souls, and they are seeking our assistance. So he's saying the mediums, when it is their time, when they are ready, the assistance will come. No one is truly ever lost in God's eyes. Everyone is fully held and supported through their process, through their journey, the journey of their soul and their evolution. All is with purpose. And I feel him backing off of that. I'm very grateful that Archangel Azrael has been willing to step forward today, but also helping me through my process of grief, as he is one of the main angels who is here to help those who are grieving. That is one of his main roles as an archangel, not just to help souls transition, but to help those who are grieving the loss of their souls. And I feel his wings literally around me, and my crown and my head is just vibrating right now with his love, and I just feel his happiness and peace for me to share this message. So when I came on here today, I didn't have a full sense of what I was going to talk about. I just had the feeling or need to share some of my personal experiences. And now I understand why it was so important to get this message out. And so I hope this is helpful for you in some way, or if it is helpful for someone you may know who is struggling with grief or the loss of somebody they love, please feel free to share this video with them. I thank you all so much for your support, for your love, and for all those who have been holding space for me and sending me messages of comfort and peace in this difficult time of transition. I thank you all from the bottom of my heart, and I look forward to continuing on my path and to hopefully be making and sharing more messages in the future. So thank you again. Much love to you all. Bye.